Lee Eisenhower. What'd you think of that?
Yeah.
First time seeing that.
That's awesome, man.
Alright guys, I'm with Bruce. We're on our way to One Shepherd. Good train in Missouri with those guys. So, you know, we're on the Texas road, heading north. Looking forward to this. So, I don't know what else to say. Got a long road. It's going to be about an 8-hour movement for us. Got something to throw in, bud?
Oh, no, just getting ready to leave the great state of Texas and hit Oklahoma. So we'll keep you updated along the road. Just past the big Eisenhower statue in North Texas on 75. See some footage of that. That was pretty cool. My first time seeing it.
Good deal. All right, so we are in Oklahoma right now. There's the Choctaw Casino. I'm sure Bruce has spent many a drunken nights there.
I've never been, guys. I've never been.
All right, here we are in Missouri.
Missouri.
All right, so we just crossed over the Missouri line. We're about 3 hours out, and it's been an interesting trip, to say the least. So, wish we could put some of it in film, but I'm gonna go ahead and not include it.
Nope.
So, all right. All right, guys. So we arrived late Wednesday night. This is the main base camp at One Shepherd, which they refer to as the CMTC, or Combat Maneuver Training Center. During the final training exercise, though, it's commonly referred to as the FOB, or Forward Operating Base. Camp consists of GP tents for troop living areas, a mess tent, S-shops, and an armory. It also has heads, or bathrooms for you civilian types, as well as showers and washing areas. This is the S4 supply building, as well as the armory. Here you get issued your weapon if you didn't bring your own, and you get your miles gear issued to you.
Okay, guys, so we're here at One Shepherd. We got to get inside the arms room. This is where we were issued our weapons, and we're going to look at these racks a little bit. If you look here, most all these rifles have green furniture. Again, that's sort of One Shepherd's deal. They really like OD green. But we got some A2 rifles here, a few railed rifles, more A2 rifles, M4 carbines, flat top. And they got M4 carbines with fixed A2 carry handles, kind of the old style, right? All the way down to here. They can outfit about 60 guys. So this is just a small portion of the weapons that they have available. OPFOR miles gear. And these are the harnesses that are programmed for OPFOR. And then this is BLUEFOR miles gear. Again, harnesses that are programmed for BLUEFOR. You can see that these are woodland and those are OD green. Here's some of the helmet mounts. So this is just a small section of the arms room. We want to give you guys a first-hand look of it.
The bugs can be pretty bad at times, so it's definitely a good idea to use the permethrin that they have at the CMTC to spray your own uniform down.
Our DSM responded with a pre-dawn counterattack entitled Operation Verdant Eclipse. Both sides have recently sustained heavy casualties. Current situation. Evidence of DSM is supporting terrorism. PRK counterterrorism specialist Jack Bauer captures master spy Grinder. Bomb-making equipment and weapons linked to DSM confirm involvement. Within 24 hours, multiple terrorist plots have been thwarted. DSM weapon caches found and destroyed at the PRK port.
Okay, guys, so 0630, me and Brent are up, ready to rock. Last night we were issued, our weapons were outfitted with miles gear, 7 magazines, 4 MREs. We were briefed on how the miles gear works. And, we're getting ready for the day, so stay with us. Temperature's a lot cooler here than it is out in Texas. Brett, you got anything you want to say to the good viewers out there?
Man, I need some coffee.
He needs coffee. We'll be back.
it's going to be more in the foreground. We're going to put that
where's the, what's the word I'm looking for, the kill shot versus the near miss. You'll hear it go beep beep, it's a near miss, right? That lets you know those guys out there are shooting at you genuinely, not just shooting. And so it does all of that, that's great. So you've got this box, right? And after 500 meters, it says you better be hitting the guys in the bottom box. And after whatever, let's say 700 meters, it goes, yeah, you better be hitting everybody in the bottom quarter. And what it's not allowing for a full, bullet drop, but it's making you pull that just, at a critical point where you shoot at somebody at 700 meters, you're like, oh shit, I've got to, get over his head and estimate this. And so it's making you do a little bit of that. And that's what it's designed to do. So it's pretty damn smart stuff. Is it perfect? No. It's a simulation system, so it's shitty. But like I said, I think it's the least shitty of all of them. Not necessarily the least expensive of all of them, but the least shitty of all of them.
What is the rough cost on one unit?
Roughly, so here's the problem. I'll tell you the cost of one unit. Miles, well, now there is no miles, 2,000, it's all miles IWS, so what you guys are carrying is $2,500 per man.
Gotcha.
Okay? Just for the unit, but that doesn't do any of the other stuff like the God guns and all the maintenance equipment and everything else. And so if two guys were to go out and buy, which by the way, we literally had to get cleared. We're the only civilian school in the world that makes us available to the civilian public. When they sold to us, first thing we had to go through a 90-day clearance through NSA. So they had to do a background check on who the hell we were. And then they approved it, and we bought them. We have 2 platoons worth. We can field 60. We have a few more than that, but we can field 60 guys at a time. So when we bought it, the next thing they did is they don't have any civilian sales, so they literally, you have to sign all the ITARs agreement, and they sold to us as a foreign military. And that's sweet.
They use that model. Interesting.
Yeah. So we have the rights to buy all of these things now because we've been approved, but yeah, it's not fun because people always, so if I spend $5,000, I can get one for me and my son. I'm like, and then go get the $3,000 God gun, and then here, let me give you the guy who just does the depot level maintenance, annually. He does it really cheap, and he's out in New Mexico, and so they're like, oh, there's a lot more to this. I was like, yeah, and if anybody explained that back to us when we bought, we probably wouldn't have bought it, because we already had sticker shock. We're like, it cost what?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so we asked, that was one of the things I was wondering about because I got to run that ACOG there. And I'm like, well, do I need to use my bullet drop compensation within the reticle and the ACOG? Or?
Nominally, yes. Okay, but
that's pretty cool that it can do that.
But the ratio, you're figuring, okay, 5.56 drops this far, and unfortunately, this generation, they actually want to get to the point where you're able to do that, where it will take the laser and actually, because that's what it's not doing. It tells the laser in the dot matrix, but they want to be able for you to do a laser rangefinder on it, so it tells that laser, okay, aim lower, aim higher, whatever it is, to adjust for the impact. They're not there yet. The other thing that they're working on now is shoot through the wall technology. This does not have it. This generation doesn't, but they say Gen 5 may have, where it's RF is incorporated with the laser, and they already have this, so they already have RF that can go from me to him at quite a bit of a distance, reasonably, within house fighting or jungle fighting distances. And it will say, what's the density between us? So what's the likeliness that this kind of ballistic, a shrapnel from a hand grenade, or a 5.56 round, or a 308 round, would it get to you? And they've already got all that perfected. What they don't have perfected is, it does this. It doesn't do bullet. You see what I'm saying? So. It's good for explosives, but they don't have it honed in for bullets yet. So that's where they struggle. But it's a cool system. Get a little bit of confidence on it, and I think you'll love it.
Is the thing fit here with us?
It's right here.
Can you put it in my hand?
Oh my God.
Throw me the grease tube.
No, he's gonna apply it to you.
VPC on? Camera?
Yeah.
Nikon, got your Canon? Good. You
got a Canon.
Okay.
Right
Enough
enough
for me.
Oh, hey, it's all headshots after this.
Yep. There you go. First shot.
OC. Nice and light.
If any of you guys got cell phones on, put them on airplane mode or it's going to kill yourself.
Don't even take cell phones if you're wearing IWS.
Hey, Chris, he's not in front. Upside.
Grabbing our rucks and moving until 1200, alright? So we're going to have about 45 minutes. We're going to go over some rock drills. We're going to talk about the plan a little bit more. We're just going to chill out, okay? We want to get ourselves acclimated to our AO environment before we move out immediately. We're going to have a little bit of downtime when we get there, but let's still maintain security. Let's maintain sound discipline as well.
Dropped off by the truck down here by this good Diamond Square. We're going to move out in 20 minutes. We're going to come up this road, High Speed Avenue, and there's a gate hole right here. We're going to come in, and there's a power line. The trees have been cut, so we'll have a high speed all the way down this hill. There's a water cache slightly before that creek line there. We're going to leave our rucks in that position. Clicks we're going to go. And then the plan is Bravo is going to provide cover fire, and Alpha's going to move up and take the first tree line here. We're going to position ourselves on the north end of that tree line. Alpha's going to come along the south edge where that minefield is and try and occupy by force the tree line in this position. Once they call us forward, we'll leapfrog up here. It's only about 150 meters, 200 meters. Then they're going to use the north avenue of approach across that 400 meters. So we're going to position ourselves more in the center, provide a base of fire, and see if there's any enemy out there. But our goal is to push all the way across to the last avenue across the fob here. So we won't go any further than that. At that point, then we'll look for new orders. So any questions?
No. Hey, just to put this in context, the enemy is supposed to be somewhere in this corridor here. This is a notional minefield, so we're not allowed to essentially cross that. We can't use any of the tree line or any of this stuff. We have to go through this open field, so we're trying to tackle this beast the best way possible, using what we do have. Hopefully there's some micro-terrain and there's some stuff out there that we're going to utilize. But our team, we're broken up into two teams, Alpha and Bravo. Bravo team, which is our team, Bruce and I, this young devil dog right here. We're going to provide a base of fire for the Alpha team, which is the maneuver element. And then we're pretty much just going to do a bounding overwatch. So once Alpha team takes a tree line, they'll set up a base of fire for us. We'll move up, we'll set up a base of fire for them, and then they'll move up to the next position. And we'll just keep doing that until we make contact with the enemy or achieve our objective.
Yeah.
They might not even be there.
Yeah, they may not be there.
So, good deal.
We'll see. Yeah, good. Let's have fun.
don't see either in front of him. I saw, it looked like at least Cole. All right. Indy 4-3, India 4-3, Indy 2-5. Enemy contact on the road on the north side. Enemy contact north side. This guy going right to left, right to left. More. Okay, that's got, okay, another one coming. The third one. Stop, is the hat coming off?
Well,
There goes the last guy. They're going to set up in that tree line across there. Hey, we need to push across. We're going to go right now, Braylon.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Let's go.
Moving.
Bravo's going across right here, right now. Let's go across right now, yeah.
let's go.
Okay, a squad leader's hit.
Is he?
His hat's off. It's just me and you.
There he is, right there out in the open.
I just stopped the guy in the tree on the right side of the road, north side. You're gonna catch you, that's the tree.
What about your left side?
He's dead. Down the right side's dead.
Move back to me. Oh, right.
Camp, what do you see now? Yeah, leapfrog ahead of him. If he fires, I'm going to jump up.
All right, moving.
He's right there, though.
Bruce, I understand you got some footwear problems out here.
Well, if you get a zoom in on these are my Bates boots, my third pair, and these are not supposed to be smooth bottoms. Okay?
Not supposed to be ninja shoes?
They're not ninja shoes. Apparently, as soon as you hit the water, these boots are modular and these come off. Okay? So Bates, for the third time in a row, you've let me down. So no, I won't be sponsoring you. Don't send me anything for free. I'm done with you. Our relationship is over. Third pair of Bates boots, different brands that I've had completely come apart on me with not a lot of use. Merrill, I'll be replacing these boots with your boots. They're on the way. They're on the Jeep now. And Merrill, you just send me all the free boots that you want because, hey, I'm all about you right now, okay? As long as you don't do this as soon as they get wet.
We did that earlier in the week.
Alright, I'm moving back. Downey, don't see me.
Go ahead.
1, 2, 3.
Moving.
Stopping.
Think about the training so far. I think it's good shit. It's pretty good, right? It's good stuff. Even as a grunt in the Marine Corps, you don't get to do continuous force-on-force ops like this very often. At least not with miles gear either. So, one, it's rare that you get to do force-on-force in continuous operations like this. We're going to be out here for at least over 48 hours, just over 48 hours, I believe. And then the other aspect of that is using miles gear. Last time I saw miles gear was in freaking SOI. So, but what do you think, man? What's your impression so far? Well, I agree with everything you said. The training's been phenomenal. Very physical. I mean, we're going to be out here for 3 days, living out of our packs. No real resupply other than a little bit of water. We only have 7 magazines each, and so we're having to conserve ammo, but at the same time, take the fight to our enemy and push them back. So far, we've been successful, so we'll get back with you guys in the morning once this night attack is complete, and we'll fill you guys in on what happened throughout the night.
Hey, Bruce. Bruce. Hey, I'm pushing forward and left. I got friendlies in my line of fire.
So they just launched their first major offensive against our lines, and we repelled their attack pretty successfully. They tried to hit us on 2 different points, our defensive line. Again, we got a linear defensive line set up here, so they hit us pretty much from the sounds of it. They hit us on our far right, and then they tried to hit us over here on the far left. But Bruce and I and another guy were able to repel the attack on this side. So far so good. So they're eating his chow. Victory chow.
All right, they're moving right. They're sprinting right, both of them. Yeah. Yep. I lost visual, but they sprinted straight across that way. down. So we're setting up our defensive position for the night. So Bruce is over here, he's constructing a fortified position. And then I was down there clearing fields of fire. So we got two main likely avenues of enemy approach. One of them is that danger area, the opening, and then there's a creek. So from our position right here, we can cover one of the creek avenues of approach, as well as this opening danger area right here.
It'll be dark, so I don't see. Alright, so this is the last night. So what's happened thus far is we've been able to repel the enemy's attack. At one point, Bruce, another guy here at One Shepherd, did what started off as a reconnaissance patrol, and we ended up stumbling upon the main patrol base. That really got into the OODA loop. After we fell back, Bruce and I got killed, so we had to come respawn. After we got back in the fight, the enemy started to move their BB, which got caught up by another element on our side in an ambush. So our guys ambushed them while they were moving their rucks trying to establish our patrol base. So what we did now is we've pulled back. We've established another linear defensive line right up in front of a creek bed with multiple openings and danger areas. Now we just play the waiting game.
We got chow cooking. What you having for dinner, Brent?
I think hash brown and bacon.
Oh, that sounds delicious. We're having breakfast for dinner.
Hash brown potatoes with bacon, peppers, and onions.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
What about you?
Oh, I'm having a hamburger patty with pepper jack cheese, garlic mashed potatoes.
Fat fuck.
Shut up. I'm editing this out. Okay, so this is supposed to be a hamburger.
Alright guys, it's dusk. We're sitting in a fighting position. He's eating chow.
I'm having a hamburger.
So this is the final warning for the FBX. The enemy launched one major assault on us last night. They had our positions pretty good. We were ultimately able to repel their assault. So right now we're in stand 2. The sun's starting to come up. So we're just sitting and waiting. Pretty much. We do expect probably a large-scale attack sometime this morning.
0853, the enemy is attacked. Still no contact on the left side.
Call your targets, call them out. That's close to you find it? Oh. Yeah. You need to, promotion courses, you need to make sure you test it. What made you choose
Final formation. We'll walk out, get formation.
Good job, guys.
You take off your battle rattle?
Yep.
No.
Alright guys, so I'm going to talk about the Miles gear that we utilized out here. So this is the Miles 2000. It really consists of 3 major components. So you have the actual sensor that's attached to the barrel of your weapon, and then you have the harness that attaches to your H straps or something, but it pretty much surrounds your torso, so you have sensors on your torso. And then you have a headpiece, and this headpiece can attach to, as you can see here, a boonie or a Kevlar helmet or something like that. And it attaches via these Velcro straps. So, interesting story. They run 2 different types of Miles gear out here. They have the Miles 2000, and then they have this Miles IWS gear. And Bruce and I actually started this training evolution with this IWS gear, but we ran into some issues early on with it. And this is actually a more modern day version of the Miles gear system. It came out after Miles 2000, but from our experience, the Miles 2000 gear seemed to be working better for us. The only downside of that is when we first got here, they outfitted our personal weapons with the IWS gear, and then once we had to, once the exercise kicked off and we had to trade our IWS gear in to get the Miles 2000 gear, we had to get a stock AR-15. So that's why you'll see in the video that we start off with our own personal rifle, and then we end up with a stock M4 style carbine after that later on. But other than that, guys, so the headpiece has 4 sensors, 2 on the front, 2 in the back, and then as you can see on the back side, there's 4 sensors on the back, and then you got the 4 sensors on the front. So this is my gear, and Bruce will show you his in a second, but I attached the torso harness to my H straps, utilizing some Velcro retaining straps, and then you can also use zip ties and things like that. But I ran this Alice equipment this whole time I was out here, and it functioned flawlessly and perfectly. And Bruce and I will talk also about what our best gears that we used out here is, but this stuff worked for me really good with all this Miles equipment. So I had no major issues. I'll turn it over to Bruce so he can show his gear and how it's attached to his setup.
Okay guys, so just like Brent said, we started out on the IWS system and we transferred over to the Miles 2000 after the first day. We were just running into a lot of issues of getting false readings and things like that. Apparently that IWS system is somewhat sensitive to cell phones and some certain reflections, and its capabilities are much higher than Miles 2000, but for what we do out here, we don't really need those capabilities. We just need reliability. So we went to Miles 2000, and from that point forward, we didn't really have any trouble. So you've got your halo here. This one's been removed. You can see it's just got these Velcro straps that you can run through your boonie, through your helmet cover, whatever you've got. We found both systems fairly universal. This is heavier. This weighs a good bit more than your IWS system, but again, it didn't really seem to be a problem. Of course, the rifle, we've got the Miles system, Miles 2000 mounted up top, blank firing adapter, And this keys in with the brain on the chest harness, which is here. Just open this little pouch and you've got a control panel, and you hit the info button and it tells you weapon, the system's ready and the weapon's ready. And if there's any problem with this syncing up or what they call marrying up, you just go through a process to marry those up so that they'll work. Once you've been shot, they become unmarried, and then you could continue shooting blanks, but you're not going to get any kills on the bad guys until this has been reset by an instructor. Pretty easy to set up even on my H harness. This is a LBT, but these things are very universal. You've got kind of these just these snaps down here on the bottom. I just ran through Molly. That would work great on Alice though, if you were running Alice. And same thing here. I just ran a piece of paracord around it to keep it from flopping around here, and tied it in with a snap strap right here on through my Molly there, and it worked great. You could just fit these systems to anything. They're pretty universal in the way that they mount.
And I kept pushing them to behind the crest of a hill so they have the downward plunging fire down the road.
And no, Joe, I accept that, and they seem to, right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to calculate that too. When they stepped out in that open field, it was death. When they went to the road, though it cost them dearly, I'd say they were enjoying a pretty good pace of taking the road. Am I wrong, guys?
No.
Yeah, my biggest fear was when they were going in there so fast. I was afraid that we seen
and it's like a home to me. I traveled around the country, seeing things and being free. I picked up this cute hitchhiker. She turned out to be a man. Then the road got really bumpy. I blew a tranny in my van.
Alright guys, so Bruce and I were on our way back to the great state of Texas. We just finished our training up there at One Shepherd Leadership Institute, and we just took part in pretty much the final culminating event at One Shepherd, which is the final exercise. So at One Shepherd, they pretty much, the events last about a week. So the first half of the week is, you know, whatever the curriculum is. But for instance, if it was a basic course, they go over hand and arm signals, you know, immediate action drills, things of that nature, teaching guys how to patrol. And I do that in the first half of the week, and then the second half of the week is the culminating event, which is, you know, the final exercise. So Bruce and we just took part in their final exercise. Thankfully, they allowed us to come up there and train with them and take part in this. So we're going to give our final thoughts, and then we're going to talk about our top 3 pieces of gear that we thought were pretty much indispensable. Like, they were phenomenal pieces of gear and equipment and really helped us out during that training. We have a couple items that we mutually agreed were just performed phenomenally, and but we both have our own top 3 that we thought were just outstanding pieces of gear and equipment that really helped us. So if you do take part in the One Shepherd training in the future, you might want to consider having these pieces of gear. So starting off with our final thoughts, I thought the training that we did out there was phenomenal. Gentlemen, I'm telling you, the stuff we did out there was on par with U.S. military training. It was an over a 48-hour training exercise, which was a continuous operation, meaning we were constantly on the offense, and if we weren't on the offense, we were in the defense, or we were rucking somewhere, we were making movements. During those movements, the enemy could still hit us. We were rucked up. I mean, it was outstanding. I've done training like that in the U.S. military, but even then, most of the time, it's not like that. Most of the time, it's you're going out to the field, you set up a bivouac site. You know, the bivouac site is kind of an admin area, and then you go to a range, you participate in a range of training and whatnot, and then you come back to the bivouac site, and then that's it. it's not always you're in the field in a tactical environment and it's not continuous, you know, operations where there's an active OPFOR out there trying to hunt and destroy you, and you're doing it likewise. So just outstanding. Not only that, they utilize the Miles 2000 gear, and you know, Bruce and I were talking, we talked to a lot of guys at One Shepherd. Ultimately, the Miles gear is the weakest link in the chain as far as training is concerned. But here's the caveat to that. It's something, and it's better than just going out there with blanks. You can engage targets at 500 meters. The problem is, you know, heavy vegetation might disrupt that laser and, you know, might cause a miss. Or things that, you know, normally a 5.56 would, you know, have no trouble punching right through, obviously could potentially disrupt your laser. So there is a shortfall to the Miles system, but it's better than anything out there, to be honest. You know, I've worked in the military, I've worked with sim rounds and whatnot, and you know, those are good, but they're only really good for CQB, and you're running around with a paintball mask on. Paintball masks get fogged up, those goggles get fogged up. You know, nobody wants to wear a mask, you know, 24/7. So this, you're out there, you're patrolling with, you know, what you would wear in combat essentially, and you don't have masks and all this other crap on your face. So it's a good training system. It's not perfect, but it's better than the rest. That's my honest opinion. I thought the training was just outstanding. The total combined thing, all the elements, the sights, the sounds, the fatigue. I mean, outstanding training. Totally recommend it. You guys need to get on board if you haven't. This is your opportunity as a civilian, or if you're former military, you just want to hone your skills and keep constant, because it's an evaporating skill. If you don't use it, you lose it. You go there, you refresh yourself, or if you're a civilian, you've never done something like this, it's your opportunity to get real infantry training in the light fighter concept. So that's my 2 cents. Turn over to Bruce. He's going to give his piece. You know, he's driving right now, so hopefully he can talk and concentrate on the road at the same time. But Bruce, what's your take on it?
I got to agree with everything Brent said. Everything is something I would back up 100%. Training was phenomenal. This is not like they expect for you to show up already knowing how to shoot. They expect for you to show up already understanding your gear and your equipment, and for your stuff to be squared away, because you are out in the field for 3 days, 2 nights, and when you step off after your initial gear check, there's no going back to base camp. You're living out of your ruck, and that's all you have is your ruck and what your team has. And if you're short on something, if you need something that you don't have, you have either got to try to borrow that and get that from a team member, or you're just out of luck. You're not going to have it. So we had 5-gallon water resupply once a day. That's not that much water. Things that are safety issues, they will resupply. They actually had a little Jeep that you would get on your military radios, and they were all running real military radios. They had a real base station, and they had a team to monitor that radio traffic and document that traffic from both sides. So you're calling in, talking about your actions, your reactions, your movements, how far you are from your objective, etc. And you can call in and say, hey, look, we're real short on water. We've burned through a bunch of water. We've been spending the afternoon attacking. Can we get a delivery of water? And then that will be dispatched, water will be loaded, and will be delivered to a location. And it may not be your base camp. You may end up having to ruck out and pick up that water and bring it back, or you may be lucky that it is near your base camp. You don't know, but all the resupply, that's how it's done. And as far as I know, we had 2 resupplies. We had water, and we got lucky and got a small ammo resupply at one time. Well, we stepped off of 7 30-round magazines, and that's what we had for the entire operation. So that makes you think you can't just go out there and dump mags. You've got to make your shots count and conserve ammo, because that's really not that much ammo. We were fortunate enough in this operation to then get a resupply of 2 mags per person in additional to that, for a total of 9 mags. And just from my personal experience, I ended up turning 4 loaded mags in. I didn't burn through that much ammunition, although we were in a lot of fighting. Brent, how many mags did you turn in loaded?
I turned in, I think, 2 fully loaded mags.
2 fully loaded mags. So he got a little more trigger time than me. but there were guys that were low. I remember I gave one of my magazines to another team member who was actually running pretty low because his side of the defenses had been getting hit for a while. But getting back to the overall feelings for the class. Again, everything's out of your pack, no resupply, so you have to pack smart. And I know we did the gear packing list. That was pretty spot on. We felt real good about that. What we took was right on par with what we should have took. I don't think we had hardly anything that we really wished that we had taken that we didn't take. But so we did real good on packing our gear. Real happy with how that turned out. Another thing that I would like to say is kind of give a shout out to the support staff. Their staff were absolutely professional and excellent. More professional, more supportive than I expected them to be. Their ability to monitor the radio traffic. They had GPS trackers on some of the team leaders so they could keep up with the GPS movements of the different units that were in the field. There were actually 3 units in the field. We had an OPFOR, that was our unit. We had a BLUEFOR that wore woodland camis. And we had sort of an independent force that was allied with BLUEFORs that wore multicam. So we were able to see what the 3 camouflage patterns look like at distance, in moving, fighting against them, watching them move. Between solid OD, woodland, and multicam. That was an interesting experience. We learned some things from that. But they were able to monitor the movements of all those units, and then in the debrief come back and talk about, ask team leaders, why did you go this way? Platoon leaders, why did you respond that way? And come back and do kind of a situation report after the fact. We also had some issues early on. Brent and I both took our own weapons, and some other team members did too, to have those outfitted with the Miles gear. And there were 2 types of Miles gear that we've got in the previous video. It was Miles 2000 was the older system, the older generation of system, and we were outfitted with the newest system that was IWS. That was IWS. IWS has some great capabilities. You can do a lot more with it on the software side. As far as the infantrymen, though, it's basically the same. And we had some reliabilities with that system. So towards the end of the first day, our rifles were taken back in, swapped out for the Miles 2000 system. So you'll see a change in weapon systems from us. We went from kind of our tricked out ARs with optics to iron-sighted M4s, bone stock M4s with standard A2 upper receivers and carry handles. And they worked great. We had, from that point on, that Miles 2000 system worked great for us. We were really impressed with it. That's the reason why you'll see a change in weapon system. But it was one of those things that we kind of took as a positive. I know I was laying there looking down my iron sights, lining it up on enemy guys, and I just look back and I'm like, yeah. I remember the iron sight days, you know. It's been a while since I've ran this system seriously, and there's something to be said for it. I really, really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun, getting that moving guy, a real person in your iron sights, picking out your ghost rings, going from your low light in the morning to your smaller peep in the afternoon. That was a good time. So it was a little throwback, little nostalgia, and it's something that you could kind of imagine if you were in the modern military. You may be issued a gun that's not what you wanted, not ideal for you, or you may have a weapon go down, so you have to pick up another weapon that again is a base model and it's not ideal. Can you make it work? And that's exactly the situation we found ourselves in. And let me assure you, we made it work, and we were actually glad to have it. I kind of forgot how light those bone stock M4s were, and there was some times there where I was humping a ruck, and I was glad that I had a light rifle in my hands. But those guys took good care of us. Their staff, their training staff, got that squared away, made sure that we were happy, we were up in 100%, and very good support on the weapon side, very good support on the Miles gear. Their instructors were great. You could see the training happening. You could see the fruits of some of the training that some of the platoon leaders and team leaders had before we got there, and they were actually putting that to use. So me and Brent walk in, and they don't even know us. We're introducing ourselves, and we're about to go on a 3-day operation with them out in the field, and they're just starting, you know, they don't know what they're getting into with us. And of course, we don't know what we're getting into with them. But man, our team meshed well, didn't it? We had a great team. We had our team leader, we formed a 3-man team. It was Brent and I and another Marine, former Marine that was our team leader. And man, talk about squared away. I got to say, we couldn't have got a better guy, could we?
Yeah, he's an old timer, old core. Obviously, the guy being a former Marine, you know, I hit it off with him, and you know, he was good to go. And he had done several training events with One Shepherd before, so he really knew, you know, the system there and how things worked there. And he, you know, kind of took us by the hand and showed us all the ins and outs of the, you know, the miles equipment and everything else, the stuff that we weren't spun up on. He really took the ball and ran with it there. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with Bruce on that point. The staff there was absolutely professional. It's a shame that our you know, the original system, IWS system that we had on our weapons went down, and we had to swap it out. But you know, in the long run, hey, it's still an AR-15, still the same weapon, and we took it to the fight. We, you know, we performed with the weapons that we had. So you go to combat with the gear that you have, not the gear you wish you had. So,
that's right.
So anyways, moving on, let's go ahead and talk about the top 3 pieces of gear that we thought were most useful to us out there, out of all the gear that we took. Now, obviously, some things go without saying, you know, like uniforms and you know, stuff like that. You're going to have that stuff. Obviously, that's useful stuff. But some pieces of gear just kind of stood out more than others for us, and Bruce and I have some different things. So I'll talk about my top 3. Number 1, I think Bruce and I agree on this. We both ran Alice packs. I ran one with a frame. He ran one without a frame. That freaking pack is so damn phenomenal. I love the Alice pack. And that, considering that you can have a complete Alice pack for like 40 bucks, you're not going to find a damn pack at that price point that performs as good as this one. And I saw a bunch of guys out there that had these new age, you know, Molly packs and stuff like that, and some of them just, you know, were gear bombs and everything else. My Alice pack was tight, it was packed tight. I had more than enough room for all the essential gear that I needed to take to the field. I humped that sucker, you know, for miles on end out there, and it freaking held up. It was comfortable. It sit perfectly with all my gear. I was running an Alice rig, so I had an ass pack that was, you know, loaded down with, you know, like a poncho and some other essential items, and that frame sat right above that ass pack and perfectly on my back, and it was the most comfortable pack that I've had in a long time, to the point to where I'm thinking about the new ruck that I have in the Marine Corps, that I'm like, man, I freaking can't stand that thing compared to, you know, an Alice pack. So, you know, I might have to go revisit, you know, taking a large Alice pack rug to the field from now on in the Marine Corps terms. But, you know, Marine Corps is real big on uniformity, so that's probably not going to happen. But anyways, going back. So number 1, Alice pack for me, definitely. Number 2, I'm going to go ahead and say, like I said, I ran an Alice rig, which performed awesomely. If you haven't seen my Alice rig that I took to the fight, you can see it in the gear video we did prior to coming up here. But that sucker performed excellent. It was so great. But specifically on that Alice belt, I had a older Alice saw pouch. All right, so this Alice saw pouch was on my right-hand side. If it was on my right-hand side, and it's big enough to hold a 200-round saw drum, but obviously I'm not running a saw, so it's just a big utility pouch.
Like a general purpose pouch.
Yeah, like a general purpose pouch. And inside that pouch, I had all these general purpose items that I could easily get to. So, you know, out there, as you guys see in the video, I had a helmet cam, I had, you know, a handy cam, I had some extra camera equipment that, you know, I had to take to the field with me to film this stuff so that you guys could see, you know, our training out there. And let me tell you, this pouch had chem lights in it, it had camera equipment in it, it had batteries, my personal GPS was in there, you know, a bunch of other stuff. I had warming layers in there, like, you know, watch cap and neck gaiter, I could throw gloves in there when I wasn't wearing my gloves. I mean, it was just anything. A flashlight was in there. Anything I needed routinely, I could put in this big ass saw pouch that's on my belt, easily accessible for me. So that was absolutely essential piece of gear. I don't think you can see it. We saw. Did you see that Moab bomb over there on display?
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes. So sorry, we're driving through
Wow.
Oklahoma, and there's this big
Wow.
display Moab bomb. It was
Yeah,
pretty
it
badass.
says defending our freedom, and it's a ginormous Moab set up on a concrete slab on display.
Sorry.
That's some America for you right there.
Got a little distracted there. So yeah. So anyway, saw pouch was pretty outstanding. Totally glad I had that. So the Alice pack, the saw pouch, and there's one more thing I was going to. So number three, I'm giving to my M65 field jacket liner. I wore this thing every night because the temperature would drop and it got cold as hell. I mean, freezing almost. At least that feels like it. Bruce and I are coming out of the Texas summer, so we're used to 100-degree temperatures. So when it drops down to like 50 degrees, we're freezing our ass off. What do you think that temperature got down to there?
Dude, it got cold. I'm telling you, I was standing there, night before last, and it was dark. The moon, we had moonlight for part of the night, and then the moon would set, and it got so dark to where, well, and this is one of the important things to point out. We're sitting there on guard duty, and you don't even need to look around with your eyes. You can't see anything but darkness. You're listening for the enemy movement, and you're listening for every walnut to drop and squirrel to run around and all the crazy noises going out there, trying to determine, is this happening by an animal or is this happening by a human, right? And that was what our late nights consisted of as we rotated through guard duty, and it got cold, real cold. I know I had a jacket on, you had your M65 liner, we had gloves on, we had our scarves on, we had our beanie hats on, and it was still quite chilly. So plus we were probably a little wet because we were sweating there during the day. So the temperature deviated throughout the day, between about 4 in the afternoon and say 4 in the morning. It changed quite a bit, didn't it?
It was cold. So anyways, that M65 field jacket liner, I pulled it out at night, put it on. It was OD, so it was I could wear it. It matched my uniform. I just threw it on. It gave me some extra warmth. It's essentially made out of the same stuff as a poncho liner, which poncho liner is one of the greatest pieces of gear ever devised. So kept me warm. It's a great piece of gear. I give that number 3, and it also doubled as my pillow at night. So those are my top 3. Bruce, what do you got, man? What were your top 3 pieces of gear that you thought?
Okay, so number 1, as you guys saw in the previous video, boots. There's no worse feeling than having a mission essential piece of gear like boots that go down on you when you needed them most. And that happened to me. We had just began, it was the first day of combat operations. We had assaulted our first tree line, and we're moving on to the second. And the second had a creek that was filled with water, and we're down in and out of this creek, working this creek, pushing the enemy out up to, I don't know, thigh-deep water in some instances. And I realized there's something kind of hanging on my foot. Look down, whole sole of my boot is coming off. So that is the worst feeling. Your heart just sinks. So finish up the fight, get out, we start watering up, and I realized the sole is already missing off my other boot. I've lost both soles off of this pair of boots in the course of about 2.5 hours at the very beginning of this training event. So fortunately for me, I had brought an extra pair of my old Merrills. You guys saw that in the gear review. Thank God that I did, because otherwise I'm going to be out there caveman, barefoot in combat, So had the Merrills. Went to those, they got me through the weekend, they performed flawlessly. So my number 1 piece of kit, maybe I'm going in reverse order from you, but the Merrill boots. Merrill came through for me, got me through the weekend, 0 issues, and I was very, very glad to have them. Another piece of gear that we used a lot, and this was a fun one. We've got some footage of this. Brent is a huge coffee drinker. I didn't know this. I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but every now and then when I'm out in the field, I'll have a little bit in the morning just to get a little caffeine in my system. But Brent was a big coffee drinker. Our team leader, who we talked about earlier, he also enjoyed coffee. So Brent pretty quickly realized that the little alcohol stove, which I have made by Esbit, that I had brought to heat up my mountain house food, so that in the morning, you know, I would be Cadillacing it, having a hot breakfast, or at night a hot dinner. Well, that got reappropriated to be Brent's coffee maker. So he's constantly like, hey man, we got time to brew a little coffee, man. I need a little coffee. So all the fuel went to boiling water for Brent, making him coffee, and for the team leader. But that's one of those pick-me-ups that you wake up in the morning after those cold nights that we just talked about. You're tired, you're fighting, you've been fighting, you know, you're low on sleep, you've been cold, and that little morale booster, that 1 cup of coffee, it just prepares you, gets you pumped up to take the attack throughout the rest of the day. The value of a little morale booster like that, at such a small cost, we're talking about just carrying a little bit of fuel for the alcohol stove, totally worth it. So I'm kind of for Brent putting that on my essential top 3 pieces of gear, because it was used so much, and we probably, before we went on this exercise, didn't really think it was. I kind of debated, should I take it or not, should I take it or not. Absolutely glad I did, and wish I had taken more fuel, because it all got used up brewing coffee. So my third piece of gear that deserves mentioning is my London Bridge Trading Company chest rig. We'll put the model to that below. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but I picked this up to try out as a replacement for my old tactical tailor rig that's just been a staple for many, many years. Design is very similar. That tactical tailor split front nav, I had a lot of custom work done to it by my design, and then later found out that London Bridge Trading Company made one basically exactly as I had modified mine right off the shelf. So I picked one up to use for this event. It was one of the new pieces of kit that I took out. Phenomenal piece of kit, worked great, was very comfortable, set on my hips well, and kept the weight on my hips rather than on my shoulders, because I knew that running an Alice pack with no frame, I was going to have a little more weight on my shoulders, and that was fine. But just wanted to mention that piece of kit worked well. It's not that glamorous or glorious, but worked great. Very, very happy with it, and I will be using it more in the future, and we'll get a gear review done over on my channel on that chest rig, so you guys can check it out and how it was configured a little more in a little more detail.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Those were our top 3.
Honorable mention. Oh,
yep. Sorry, honorable mention. So we've been talking, and this thing probably should be in like a top 4 because it was just as awesome, and we both used the crap out of it. We both had sniper veils wrapped around our necks for the entirety of the whole training evolution, and we used them from everything from, you know, keeping the sweat off your neck, to wiping your sweat off your face, using it as a hand towel, to concealing a fighting position, to break up the human outline and everything else. I mean, we use the crap out of this thing. Great piece of gear. We always talk about how awesome they are, and just a great piece of equipment and gear to have on you. We both concurred. They were great and deserve a honorable mention. So I think that's pretty much it. But
yeah, that British cotton sniper veil, an absolutely indispensable piece of gear. I know I used it every bit as, I don't know who used it more. We had them, we're using them for something the entire event. So guys, if you don't have one of those, pick one up. I don't know, what do they cost? 10, 15 bucks, if even that. Not that expensive. Pick one up, and maybe you'll see the beauty in it the way that we did.
Well, alright guys, that concludes this video on the R1 Shepherd training experience. I wish I could have gotten more video than what I already got, but I encourage you guys to go check out their YouTube channel, check out their website. Totally worth the training, alright? There's a lot of, you know, shooting training that you can take out here where you're on a square range and everything else, and they might even have some fire and maneuver stuff. There's a lot of that out there, more than you can count. But this is the only place that I'm aware of where you can go out there and conduct, you know, 3-day long continuous operations that teach, you know, patrolling fundamentals, offense, defensive operations, and you're living and fighting and eating and sleeping and everything else like a grunt does in combat. So I'm telling you 100%, this is the exact same stuff I did in the Marine Corps, and we didn't even get to do it all the time in the infantry, which is a shame because it's great training. But this is stuff, man. If you are a civilian and you've never done anything like this, go humble yourself. Go there and partake in this training so that you know what it's like, so you know what a grunt does in combat. Because I mean, I'm telling you, you know, if you don't know what it's like to dig in, clear fields of fire, set in the defense, go 50% with a buddy. You know, Bruce and I went 50% that second night in the field in our fighting position. You know, he's up for 1 hour or 2 hours. I'm up for 1 hour and 2 hours while he's sleeping, and vice versa. You know, we defended a reverse slope, and we had areas, main avenues of an enemy approach covered by fires that we had prepared in advance by cutting fields of fire with, you know, machetes and setting in tripwires and triplayers and doing other stuff, you know, trying to channelize the enemy to come in where we wanted them to come in. So, you know, we did all that stuff. You don't get to do that at other places, and you need training. I mean, you can't, you know, you get periods of instruction from professionals, guys that have actually, you know, done this stuff in real life in combat, and guys that have been going to One Shepherd, you know, for several training evolutions and have learned the skills and fundamentals. You know, those are the guys that are teaching you this stuff. So, and you also have combat veterans like myself that are there, that are doing this training. So 100% stamp approval. This place was awesome. The people there were just phenomenal, you know, and at the end of the training event, you're friggin' getting beer and steaks, sitting around fires, shooting the shit with good guys.
What a wonderful
great
last
stuff.
night. Yeah.
War stories. Awesome, awesome time. So, you got any closing comments?
Guys, I just to say this. If you're sitting at home and you're looking at your gear in your closet that's brand new, it's never been more than a night out in the field, and you're thinking, I've bought everything, I'm squared away, I'm ready, take this class. Take this class and take that gear, and then see how much of it changes, because I can tell you, we saw a couple of guys out there with gear that we thought right away, like, I don't know about this, I don't think this is going to work, and I promise you by the end of the weekend they were going to be making some gear changes. They were carrying too big of a certain piece of gear, or too much of a certain piece of gear, or they didn't have something that we thought that they would need, and that absolutely rang true. If you're one of those guys that you've got all the gear and you know you're active on YouTube, or you get your little combat shooting courses in from time to time, and you just think that you've got what you need to get through the night, or to get through multiple nights living out of your pack, be real with yourself. You know, be real and say, and go out and test yourself and find out, is that true? Say to yourself, you know what, this year's going to be the year that I head out to One Shepherd and I spend a few nights out in the field, and I try the gear that I've got, and I find out, is it ideal for me, or are there real changes that I need to make to my kit, which will make me a stronger fighter in the future.
Great stuff. All right, guys, don't forget to check out the links below. Thanks for watching.
And I've been cooking 7 years without one single raid. I sleep with 15 women and there ain't one on the pill, cause they all want to date the Donald Trump of Cedar Hill. Crystal Meth, Crystal Meth. Well, I love to smell that cooking and it's always on my breath. Crystal Meth, Crystal Meth. You better not come around looking when I'm cooking Crystal Meth. started making meth to keep their men awake. I know they would have won the war if they had this shit I make. Folks are briefly tweaking, just ask my buddy Seth. If you dare to smoke a light bulb full of Jeffco crystal meth. Crystal meth, crystal meth. I love to smell it cooking and it's always on my breath. Crystal meth, crystal meth. You better not come around looking when I'm cooking crystal meth. Well, you might just burn your house down if you cook the stuff inside. Slush the bone down the holler back behind my double wide. If my neighbors ever find my lab, I know I'll have a mess. Well, that's why I always walk around with a loaded SKS. Crystal meth. Nobody ever gets. I love playing for an audience like this because they're just like, "What'd you say?" I love spinach, cooking it. It's always on my breath. Crystal meth. You better not come around like when I'm cooking crystal meth. I'll play another one. I'm gonna kind of creep up on board.
And there it is.